गुड मॉर्निंग फ्रेंड्स मैं आपका रजिस्टर टीचर अनिल कुमार स्वाई आई वेलकम यू टू द ज्ञान ज्योति ऑनलाइन क्लासेस स्टूडेंट्स टुडे we'll study the rest of the chapter, that is the first empire Mauryas part 2. Students, yesterday we learned about the first empire in Mauryas, that the initial part of the portion of the chapter contained Alexander the Great, and how he tried to conquer the world and how he invaded India and how his general Seleucus Nicator became the ambassador of Alexander the Great, and he became the ruler of the conquered Indian territories. Many Greeks settled in northwestern region. With this, Greek and Indian culture began to intermingle. So, at the advent of the different kingdoms in our country, with the advent of Alexander the Great to conquer India and different parts of the world, he moved to India. He was a Greek legend warrior. Then students, we studied about the Mauryans. First of all, Chandragupta Maurya was the first Mauryan emperor in the dynasty. Students, before the Mauryan dynasty, there were different kings and kingdoms, but this was the first dynasty which grew into a vast empire. Therefore, it is always told that the first empire in the Indian history is the Mauryan Empire. Then, students, next was after Chandragupta Maurya, we are recalling yesterday's chapter, yesterday's part. It was Bindusara, his son, then Ashoka. Ashoka is considered as the greatest emperor in the Indian history. Then students, we studied about Ashoka, the greatest emperor in Indian history, and we studied about Kalinga War. Students, Kalinga, as we know, is our old name of Odisha, of our state. That how Kalinga War changed Ashoka to Dharma Ashoka. How Kalinga War made an effect in his mind that he changed himself. Lots of thousands of bodies, dead bodies, made him to think, to ponder over, to leave all these worldly pleasures and to become a messenger of God. Therefore, he tried to preach Buddhism throughout the country and throughout the different parts of the country, in the world also. And his principles of Dhamma, what Dhamma means, students, what we have studied yesterday, that is a Sanskrit word for Dharma. What was the different people? To respect the elders, to be charitable to the poor, to always speak the truth. This was some of the principles of Dharma. Then students, Ashoka's lion capital, situated at Sarnath, is adopted as the national emblem of our country. Students, this was the summary of the part 1, what we taught yesterday. Now students, we will study about the different types of functions and what were the districts, what were the situations of the provinces, of the areas. The Mauryas ruled over a large empire from Pataliputra, the present day Patna. This was the single largest empire in India at that time. Earlier, India was divided into many small kingdoms, many Janapadas. The Mauryan rulers for the first time unified a large part of many kingdoms under one single ruler. So this was India's first empire. Then students, the Mauryans maintained a large army to defend the large empire, because if your empire is very large, then you need some large armies to defend it. Their army included infantry, cavalry, elephants, chariots, and a navy who was looked after by a separate department. Navy means, students, you know, water bodies. If you have armies on water bodies, then it is called navy. Then the arms used bows, arrows, swords, armor, shields, etc. This was the old technology. techniques for fighting wars. Besides the army, the emperors also needed money to pay the salaries of the government, officials for charity works, and on public utility services such as building hospitals and roads. The emperors thus needed and spent vast resources. Students, next we'll study some of the subtopics, and the first one here is how the taxes were collected. How the taxes were collected from the people to increase the revenue. Students, because if you want to run a state or a country, let us take the example of present day, you need revenue, you need the tax generation processes. Unless and until you get the tax from the public, you can't run the country or state. So it will be very inefficient government. Land revenue was the main source of income. Students, look, land revenue was the main source of income. The rate of tax ranged between 1/4 and 1/6 of the agricultural products or the produce, depending upon the fertility of the soil. Students, the amount of fertile land the farmers have, 1/4 and 1/6 of the produce. So they were giving the taxes. Other sources of income were the taxes levied on forests, mines, crafts, as well as fines and gifts. The traders had to pay taxes on merchandise and custom duties. Students, the traders means the businessmen, they have to pay the taxes on merchandise and different types of custom duties for moving their products from one place to another. Students, next subtopic is the people. What are the people at that sort of time? Merchants, craftsmen, and officials lived in cities, while the farmers, herders, etc. lived in villages. People spoke different languages, ate different food, and wore different clothes, which differed from region to region. Students, it is also true that a person, what he is eating, what he is wearing, it will differ from different regions. The empire was a land of diverse culture and religions. Students, unity in diversity is said about our country now, but it can be seen in different eras from the ancient. If we take example from the ancient time period, then Ashoka's empire was the first single unified empire. The officials, traders, and messengers had to travel long distances. So roads were constructed in the region for good connectivity. Shady trees were planted on the roadsides, on both sides of the road. Rest houses, asarayas, and were built along the roads for the people who were traveling long distances. And wells also were dug for drinking water. The emperor also provided hospitals for people as well as for animals. Students, it doesn't mean the modern hospitals. There were some places where the local doctors were there to treat the animals as well as the human beings. Student, next is the administration. How the administration took place. What was the administration? For administrative convenience, the Mauryan Empire was subdivided into 4 administrative layers or units, namely, students, look, the province was divided into the 4 layers or units, namely the center, then the province, the district, and the villages. Central administration, then provincial administration, district administration, and village administration. Patliputra, the capital city, which is the present Patna, and its surroundings were administered separately and formed a separate administrative center or unit. This part was placed directly under the emperor, who appointed different officials to collect taxes from different regions. Different officials were appointed to perform different tasks. It's true, students, that different officials were appointed for different tasks, different purposes. Then some officials maintained birth and death records, some collected taxes, Some still others recorded sale and purchase of property. So this is the modern day. So what is the offices which you see now? This were the ancient day cultures what we have adopted. The officers were transferred from one part of the empire to another. Now also students, the government officers, your parents are there, they may be transferred from one place to another for service or for work, different types of work. Students, the administration was divided into 4 parts that I will write here. The first one is students, the central administration. The emperor was the supreme authority here because he was the king of that area who took all important decisions. He was assisted by a council of ministers or Mantri Parishad. Different branches of administration were handled by different officials called Amatyas. Students, the next layer of administration was the provincial administration, that is province. The empire was divided into provinces. A governor headed each province. The governors were usually members of the royal families. Obviously, students, the governors were members of the royal family. Each province may have had a provincial capital. Takshila and Ujjain may have been capital of the provinces. So there is a assumption that Takshila and Ujjain may have been the capital of provinces. Students, the next is district administration. The empire central administration divided into central, then province, then district. The provinces were further divided into districts. A district was headed by a Pradeshtha who was assisted by junior officials such as the Yuktas and Rajukas. These officials surveyed and accessed land, collected revenue, and maintained law and order in the district. So this was the district administration all about. Then students, at last the level of administration is the villages. The last part is the villages, the end one, at the grassroots level. Each district consisted of number of villages. The village had a headman who looked after his village. The villagers assisted government officials in marking the boundaries of the village, maintaining law and order and land records, and collecting taxes. So this was the headman was the villagers assisted government officials, and the headman was in charge of maintaining the law and order and land records and collecting different types of taxes. Students, so this was the 4 layer of the administration in the Mauryan Empire or Mauryan dynasty: central, province, district and villages. The last one is the special officials. Who were the special officials? The most striking feature of Mauryan administration was the spy system. Students, do you know spy? Spy means detective. Jasoos. In Hindi we say jasoos. The spies were maintained in all parts of the empire. They kept the king well informed about the departments within the kingdom and outside. They also kept him informed about public opinion on important issues. Megasthenes described Patliputra. According to him, it was a large and beautiful city. Megasthenes described Patliputra. Students, you know that we have studied about 2 books specially, Arthashastra and Indica. Indica was written by Megasthenes and the Arthashastra was written by Kautilya. So what he described we will study. According to him, it was a large and beautiful city, Patna. He was talking about Patna, surrounded by walls. The king's palace was made of wood, but was decorated with stone sculptures. The emperor lived in great luxury and was surrounded by many servants. A committee of 30 members took care of the city. The committee was divided into 6 boards, Each board looked after a specific department because there were special officials appointed for different works. For example, separate committees took care of comfort and security of foreigners, registration of births and deaths, and trade and commerce. Students, as different officials were appointed for different types of works. Some were also appointed for collecting revenue or taxes. The common people lived in houses made of wood and mud bricks. Most of the people were farmers, agriculturists. Most of the people were farmers and others were artisans, herdmen, craftsmen and carpenters. Some were engaged in trading activities. There were both inland as well as overseas trade. Large quantities of goods were moved from one part of the country to another by caravan traders. The important inland trading centers were at that time. The important trading centers were first of all the Patliputra, these were the trading centers, then Ujjain, these were students the trading centers, then Takshila, Broj, and different overseas countries like Rome, Egypt, China and Sri Lanka. So these were some of the places in which trading activities were taken place. Students, then we'll move to the how this big empire declined. We'll study about the declination. How it declined. Ashoka died in 232 BC. He was changed from Chandashok to Dharmashok. 232 BC he died. The Mauryan dynasty continued for half a century even after his death, means a period of 50 years. But Ashoka's successors ruled over a disintegrating and declining kingdom. Why was it declining? The question arises, why it declined? Why the other rulers, other successors of Ashoka can't took forward the great empire to a large extent, and why it was disintegrated from a single empire to large and small kingdoms. Ashoka's successors lacked the ability to rule over a vast empire. The Mauryas after him failed to control the governors of provinces. The provincial governors became powerful and gradually independent because they belonged to the royal houses, royal families. The empire came to face financial crisis. State expenditure exceeded income because due to the fulfillment of different activities, their expenditure crossed the income. The last Mauryan king, students, remember the last Mauryan king is Brihadartha. This is the last king of the Brihadartha of the Mauryan king or the Mauryan dynasty, ruled over a very small area. He was weak and unable to control even his court. His own commander, students, Pushyamitra Sung, so name is very odd, Pushyamitra Sung, killed him, thus bringing an end to the Mauryan dynasty. So this was the end of the Mauryan dynasty. Students, after the declination of the Mauryan Empire, as I have told you, the last Mauryan king, Brihadartha, was very weak. He didn't even control his court. He was unable to control his court. So what happened, students? After that, it declined. It totally collapsed. The vast empire, the first empire, the Mauryan Empire of the Indian history, that collapsed. So students, what happened after the Mauryas? There were different kings came. Then what? The topic is students, India after the Mauryas. Who were they? The first one, students, were the Greeks. As I have told you, students, that the Greeks were there. Alexander the Great, they came. Then the next is the Sakas. Then friends, it is the Kusanas. Kusanas. Then in the Deccan area, this was friends, they all were ruling in the northern India. So in the Deccan area, it was the Satavahanas. The Deccan region, the Satavahanas. Students, these were the different types of rulers we'll study in this chapter after the Mauryas. So first of all, students, we'll study about the Greeks. Students, as you know that as we the people of India are called Indians. So the people of the Greece, the country's name is Greece, situated in Europe. They are known as Greeks. Students, then the collapse of the Mauryan Empire opened the doors for the invasion of Indo-Greeks, the Sakas, Kusanas, and the Satavahanas. All different type of rulers came into India. The Greeks, they came to rule over the northwest. As I've told you that Seleucus Nicator was there from Afghanistan and Punjab. They brought a change in the technique of making coins, minting. The process is known as minting. A lot of their coins are available and are a rich source of information about this period, about this important period. They also influenced Indian art and astronomy. A new style of art and sculpture known as Gandhara style. Students, this is the most important one, Gandhara style. A new art they discovered that is called the Gandhara style. So what was that? Developed under them, image of the Buddha made in this region, especially carried Greek influence. Students, you can see there are many statues, large statues of Gautam Buddha in every part of the country, in the world. So they also made some Buddha statues and they had a Greek influence on them. And after that, students, Gandhara style was introduced by the Greeks after the Mauryans. Then students, the next is the Sakas. The conquered parts of Western India and were often at war with the Satavahanas ruling in the Deccan, northern Deccan. The Sakas prevented the Satavahanas from extending their kingdom north of river Narmada. They themselves could not expand their kingdom to the north as the Kusanas were powerful there. Then students will study about the Kusanas. Next series of empire or the kingdoms were the Kusanas. In the 1st century BC, the Kusanas occupied Afghanistan and consolidated themselves in this region. Thereafter, they conquered the whole of Punjab, extending their control up to Mathura. Next, students, Takshila and Mathura were the important centers of their empire. So, the Kushana students, they occupied Afghanistan and consolidated themselves in this region. They make their empire large and they extend their control up to Takshila and Mathura, and they were the important trading centers. The Kusanas controlled the Silk Route. Students, Silk Route is a very important route. They issued gold coins which were used by traders on these trade routes. So this was all about the Kusanas. Students, the last one is students in the Deccan region. This was all about the northern India. Then the Satavahanas. These were an important kingdom in the Deccan. Okay, students. The Satavahanas ruled for about 400 years. Students, then we'll study about the empire in the the kingdom in the northern Deccan. So we studied about the Sakas, the Greeks, the Kusanas in the northern India, but the Satavahanas ruled for about 400 years from the 2nd century BC. Students, they ruled about 400 years from 2nd century BC to a little after the second. So to a little after the 2nd century CE. The Satavahana kingdom was a link between the kingdoms of North India and the South India. Students, the Satavahana kingdom was a link between the North India and the South India. It was a prosperous kingdom and was well administrated. The administration was done in a good manner. The kingdom was divided into provinces that had governors and officials to administer them. The village headmen, you can say nowadays we call them sarpanch. So the village headmen at that time, they collected taxes from the people in the village. Students, as I have told you that when we want to run a country or a state, you need taxes and revenue. So they collected the headman, village headman collected the revenue, the taxes from the village people according to their produce. And majorly there were agricultural production at that time. Then students, there was a lot of trading activity in the Deccan. Deccan is also known as the Dakshina Patha of our country during this time. The trade was both via land as well as sea route. Students, the sea route they traded with the overseas countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Malaya peninsulas. So these were some of the trade countries. China with the China also. A large number of towns sprang up in the central India. The port of Bharuch developed on the west coast. Bharuch that is situated in the western India. New ports also came up on the east coast between the river deltas of river Godavari and river Krishna. Friends, river Godavari and river Krishna, they were southern rivers. So there were some ports they came up, and inlet waterways with the help of inlet waterways, trade was going on. Then students, ships also sailed from these ports to, as I have told, from Burma to Malaya, to Burma and Malaya. Ships for trading activities, for business activities, they started moving from Burma and Malaya. Malaysia, nowadays it is known as Malaysia. Buddhism, students, as I have told, after the acceptance of Buddhism by Ashoka, Dharma Ashoka, he tried to flourish Buddhism, tried to spread with the help of his son Mahendra and daughter Sangamitra. They tried to spread Buddhism to all parts of the world. It flourished and the rulers constructed several Buddhist stupas, chaityas and viharas. Viharas means a place where Buddhist monks stay. The stupa at Amravati is known for its excellence. Students, Amravati is a place in present-day Maharashtra. Monks travelled throughout the kingdom to preach the teachings of the Buddha. Merchants also donated generously to build monasteries. Students, the different merchants, businessmen were very rich. They donated money to make the monasteries to live to reside for the monks especially. Then students, the Cholas at Tanjore, the Pandyas at Madurai, and the Cheras or the Keralas along the Kerala or the Malabar coast ruled in the south. Students, look, the Cholas, Chola dynasty in Tanjore, the Pandyas in Madurai, all are situated in Chera, in the three major dynasties in Kerala. Three major dynasties of the South India. Most of the information about them is based on Tamil literature, known as Sangam literature. Greek and Roman sources also mention about the Pandya kingdom. Students, as we know that archaeological and literary sources are there by which we can know about our past. The Cholas, the Cheras and the Pandyas constantly fought with each other. The Cholas not only fought battles on land but are also known to have maintained a fleet of ships and attacked Sri Lanka. The Cholas were most powerful and they attacked Sri Lanka with the help of their fleets of ships. The Pandyas and Cheras also maintained huge armies. The king was assisted in his work by Brahmins, ministers and head of villages. Merchants paid special taxes and for taking goods from one place to another. The Cholas had a centralized administration. We have studied about the Cholan Empire in the special case study in the previous class, previous chapters. The edicts of Asoka also mentioned the Chola kingdoms because Cholas were one of the most powerful in the southern area. So the last one we'll study about is about the Great Wall of China. Friends, elsewhere, the subtopic is here, elsewhere you not given in your textbook. The Mauryan Empire existed in India about 2400 years old. Friends, it existed in India in 2400 years ago. At this time in China, so this is the same time, simultaneously time, the emperors were building the Great Wall. This Great Wall was probably built to protect the people of China from nomadic pastoral people from different types of invasions. Since the weapons in ancient times consisted only of swords, bows and arrows, it was important to construct walls, watchtowers and moats to protect the people from the uh, different invaders. So this Great Wall of China is considered one of the seven wonders of the world now. Students, you can see the Great Wall of China from the space, even from the space. Students, this was the chapter all about, and I hope you would have understood the chapter very well. This was the second part, students. Yesterday I taught you the first part. This was the second part of the chapter. So students, I always repeat, while you are watching the video, please go through the book, refer the book, then only you can understand. So student, by saying this, I may say goodbye to all of you. Thank you students, have a nice day, stay home, stay safe.